You're listening to Eat, Play, Sex with Dr. Kat, the place to up-level that sexy life of yours, with expert talk on sex, love, and nutrition.
About what sex work means. And I saw the movie Hustlers that I was talking about with J-Lo. And I'm curious, and I'm sure everybody else is curious, is that what it is? Or can you give us a little insight into what sex work actually is? Like, how do you define it?
I love that I'm in this process of revealing and coming out as a sex worker, as an exotic dancer. And here comes along this movie, Hustlers. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, should I watch this? Should I not? I have to because this is my industry. And when the film began, the whole beginning was exciting for me. I loved it. And I was watching it while I wasn't dancing so much. I think I saw it right before quarantine life. And it felt good. I felt like, all right, this is an accurate depiction of what's really going on in gentlemen's clubs. It was just fun and, playful, and that sexual energy was, between the women. It's just this, the camaraderie that's created in gentlemen's clubs. I miss that. It's fun. However, as the film went on and it turned into some dark, crazy, those women were doing things that I have never, ever seen in any gentleman's club, anywhere in the US, anywhere I've worked. I've worked all across the country, and that movie was insane. Maybe it's happening like that, but I'd have to say that most of the women that I've connected with, specifically in Vegas, were in the dressing room pulling cards before we go on the floor. And
like pulling cards, like what? Like tarot cards?
Yeah.
Like oracles? Like, what are we talking about here?
Hell yeah. Tarot cards.
Wow. So how would you define what sex work is then? And how did you find yourself getting into this line of work?
Yeah, when it began, when I was 22, quite some time ago, over a decade ago, actually, there was a very different draw for me in getting into this work. And of course, it had a lot to do with the money. As a young 20-year-old, I was thinking, how can I make money as much as I can possibly make, as fast as I can, so that I can go travel the world and do all the things.
Sign me up.
And exactly, right? It was just so appealing in that way. And now what it is to me is a practice, and it's an outlet for bringing my wisdom and my gifts and everything that I've learned in my life to uplift people, which is probably the last thing people think of when they think of a sex worker or a stripper. I'm going in to uplift.
Yeah, I think the preconceived idea of a sex work or a gentleman's club is often like shadowy or disempowering for women or kind of sleazy. And you're saying that's not your experience and that's not your intention. So what do you see is different for you?
Yeah, I don't want to say that doesn't exist, because it does. There are shadows. I mean, it's in the dark. It's still in the corners. It's hidden. It's, people don't go to the strip clubs in the daytime. They go at night. It is shadow work in so many ways. And that's where the opportunity lies, to bring that light into that environment. Yeah, I'm getting lost in that. Go back to your question. Can you tell me the question again?
So, yeah. So I was saying, there's this preconceived idea of sex work as being something that's shadowy or disempowering for women, but you're describing it as something that's bringing the light or empowering for you. So what has your experience been like?
Yeah, I believe that when I first began stripping, there was some shadow work for me, and there was some darkness. And I also thought that stripping was kind of like the movie Hustlers, you know? I had this idea of it, and I went into it with that idea and that conditioning. And then as I continued in this environment and brought in my own work, my own practices of yoga and meditation and plant medicine work and tantra and all of that, I saw the opportunity to create a sense of empowerment, and also found other women who are doing the same thing. So as I began to move into this environment with the filters that I had, I started attracting and seeing other women who are doing the same thing. Despite the fact that there's still a lot of that going on. There's still that shadow. There's still women who are not empowered in that environment. And it's not necessarily something that goes hand in hand with the environment. That's everywhere in the world. So it's just a microcosm of what's going on the larger level.
And so when you say shadow and you say what's going on collectively in the world, you're referring to, patriarchy or sexual abuse or trafficking, or that sort of using sex as a way to overpower somebody, or maybe help me up with that.
Right. All of those topics that you just listed, and women going into that work because they feel powerless or they don't have any other option, or they are coming from a place of trauma or sexual abuse. And then also that whole objectification and manipulation and all of those things that are wrapped up in it. And I see those all as opportunities, because a big shift can come from that environment because it's there, it's not going anywhere. And it's been around forever.
Yeah, it has been.
Lovers, thank you again for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, hit subscribe and head over to eatplaysex.com to connect with me and grab my sexy guides. Because my goal here is to get you to eat, play, and sex better, so you can improve your sex life, which will improve every aspect of your life. Until next time, keep it sexy.